And we are live.
Hey!
Thank you so much for today. And I don't know actually if did you clarify that although your name is spelled Genevieve,
Yes,
it is pronounced Genevieve.
yes, that's how I pronounce it. Yes.
Yes. Well, and I'm guessing how your mom pronounces it.
Yes.
Not just how you pronounce it. Um, which I remember was such a funny thing when you and I first met because I could not, my brain could not compute. Like it was just Genevieve. And almost to the point that in my contact list, I almost literally changed it to spell Genevieve.
Oh, I do that. I spell it out for people. So it's all good.
I love it. Well, I don't think that we really told people how we know each other and how we came to be, which I think is fun
Yes.
to kind of give people context, right?
Yes.
So Genevieve and I worked together at the same company when I was doing direct sales. And you were my field development director, my FDD,
Yeah.
and really, honestly, a mentor to me. Your kids are kind of in the next stage where they're all grown.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, I know there's a lot of people out there who have kids, so you may know her from her kids, from your kids, which is kind of a funny thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
like you gain notoriety from your children. Like what? Like a turnabout. Um, tell people what your beautiful, hilarious children do.
Yeah. No, 100%. My kids have a family-friendly comedy channel on YouTube and on TikTok. So they're legit, like, are a thing. So it's, they've been doing it now for a long time. They take really great pride in providing content that is relevant and safe and appropriate for, like, you know, the peeps, the younger audience, the folks that don't, like, I'm like young
Yeah.
teens, but still fun, relevant, and yeah, they're having a good time doing it. They're actually doing well.
Well, yeah, I mean, and they don't just have this fun little hobby YouTube channel. Like they have how many followers now? How many subscribers?
But I should know all that. They are 1.5 million on YouTube and like 1 million on TikTok. I should know those things, but I'm so proud anyway.
You
So,
should be,
yeah.
and it really is. It is such a fun, like family friendly.
Yes.
There's no inappropriate language
Right.
which is hard to find. Like just
Yes.
wholesome
Yeah.
stuff that you can fully just like sit your child in front, go watch
Yeah.
this, and you can trust that it's going to be all good stuff.
Yes, they do. It's like not like 5, 6, 7-year-old kind of stuff, but
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
because they do some kind of
unless you
fun,
have a fourth
creepy
child.
stuff,
If you have a fourth kid, then really all rules are off. And we don't even know. We don't know too much. But they're not bothering us, so it's all good.
There you go. Got to put them somewhere. May as well put them at the Skorys. Absolutely. 100%.
Well, I love it because you really came into my life when I was at the brink of signing off and quitting.
Yeah.
This thing.
You came bouncing in to the restaurant with your short hair.
Yes, my little pixie cut. Oh my gosh, that was a minute ago. Yeah, I had my pixie cut, and we had just started fostering, I think, at the time. My heart was in that, and I was really just like ready to quit. And then in scoops you, which anyone who listened to you today gets it, like how just inspirational and just what a truth teller you are, and you just re-inspired and captured my heart and redirected and kind of said, let's do this thing together and figure it out together. And you truly have remained a mentor to me in so many ways.
Thank you.
I sincerely mean that.
Same.
Even though both of us, well, thanks. Both of us no longer even work for that company anymore. And
I know you're like a big thing.
Let's not get carried away. Listen, everyone listening is like, she ain't no big thing. We can attest to that. But anyway, it was such a treat. And Genevieve was not lying when she said, I literally last night was like, so I had an idea.
Hello, what do you think about this?
Which has always been the most dreaded words when I come and say, "Hey, babe, so I had an idea." He's like, "Oh, no."
Uh-huh. Oh my God.
So yeah, so obviously this is kind of, we're stepping into new territory in a lot of different senses. I mean, today we've really never done before, but it was so much fun, and I want to do it again. I think it's so great to bring voices together, and to show unity in that. Your message, I don't know if everyone listening had a chance to listen to kind of like the 20-minute message that you put kind of at the end of the day, but it was so powerful. Ben and I both sat together in the kitchen. I was about to say while we were making dinner, but let's be real, I was not making dinner. I am an encourager. I'm like, babe, yay, it looks so good.
Boil that pasta.
Yeah, and he's like, can you chop up the cilantro? I'm like, I feel like I heard a child screaming. So anyways, so yeah, so I love this today. And so once again, we just want to have kind of an open dialogue, an open talk. There's nothing formal kind of plans, but just a conversation to continue that. Again, one of many that I hope that we have, and that other people within the Black community I get to have with around this. And so let me kind of hand the baton. I do have some questions, some direct questions that I would like to ask that I feel like have been kind of recurring themes that have been difficult for me to wrestle through. I'm not going to lie, like some of the things that I keep hearing, even today, it stirs up this righteous anger. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I've said this last time too, of I can recognize it. That's half the battle. Yeah. It's hard for me to extend grace in those moments. And so I wanted, and that I own that. But it is hard because this talk of racism, it is very, no pun intended, black and white. Mm-hmm. It is very right and wrong. Mm-hmm. There is a right answer, mm-hmm, and there is a wrong answer. Mm-hmm. And I'm not usually that literal of a person. Right. I hope, and I think myself to kind of be a pretty just inclusive of, I want to hear everyone's thoughts. I want to understand everyone's opinions. I don't want anyone to ever feel alone or isolated. That's a huge, huge burden on my heart, is I never want anyone to feel that. And yet this is one of those issues where it's real hard for me. Yeah. Because just like my faith, there are so many things that just, I have a lot of freedom that God gives us. But then there are certain tenets of my faith that just, this is where I draw the line. Right. And this has been a challenging topic for me because it's one where I have drawn the line in the sand. And like you said last night when we talked, you said, are you sure you want me to say all the things? Like, I know. I was like, you may lose followers, and mm-hmm, you are going to disrupt the norm, and you are going to cause people to be uncomfortable. And I said, yes, and we should be made uncomfortable. We have been comfortable for so long that it is time that we get a little bit uncomfortable. Growth comes from discomfort, like 100%. You're not gonna learn anything sitting on a beach chair, sipping pina coladas. You really aren't. I wish we could. I do. 100%. Like, I would be all on board with that too. So let me, without further ado, yes, let me hand it over to you. I'd like you to kind of just share what's on your heart. Maybe, if everyone, a lot of these women obviously had to watch or had to work today, or were making insanity in our homes and all that. And so we didn't get to listen and tune in as much as we wanted. So kind of, is there something that either you did say today that you wanted to reiterate, or something that you didn't get a chance to speak on? Let's kind of kick it off with your heart and your story. Yeah. Thank you, Kim. And I do hope you still have followers after this whole Well, let's see. We've got 30 people watching, so they haven't left us yet.
Oh, I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. This is one of those things, honestly and truly, that it is about spiritual and human evolution. Like, to me, it really is about all of that. People don't want to evolve. People don't want to be made wrong. So like when you look at people's basic needs, right? When you look at what their needs are, there are people that like on the like the maturity scale, the psychological maturity scale, the spiritual evolution scale that are like, I can't have anything in my heart or consciousness that in some way, shape, or form makes me feel wronged. Right? Wrong. And that's unfortunate because not everything is about you. It's like nobody's asking you to feel wrong. Like, right. That is the number one thing when people are like, oh, I will not apologize for something I didn't do. And I'm like, Gloria, who asked you to apologize on behalf of the whole human race? Like, I'm like, wow, that is taking on a lot, girl. Like, dial it down. You're at like a 20. You need to be at like a 2, right?
Yeah. We're not asking you to be nailed to a cross.
Right. 100%. And so when people take things like out of context, or they take things so literally, or it becomes this thing of like, well, I will not. It's like time out. Like, time out. No, like, So it's kind of a spiritual maturity thing. It definitely, to me, is very telling. And quite honestly, I try very hard not to win conversations with those people.
Right.
Because they are in their fight or flight part of their brain. So when someone gets triggered, what happens immediately is the brain goes, you either need to fight or you either need to flight. And in many cases, people choose fight. Mm-hmm. And that looks like, hey, I'm just going to drop this here. Hey, I'm going to argue with you. Hey, I'm going to just go and troll people on Facebook. It's all about like, hey, I'm in fight or flight, but I'm choosing fight. And other people flee. It's like, I'm leaving. I'm not going to comment. I'm not going to get involved. I don't even want to be a part of this conversation. And the problem with either of those states is that it doesn't leave the mind open to analytical discussion. That's why you have this little circular thing that happens. And that is why you will also notice that it's the same stinking conversation on like you give me an argument and I can tell you the answer. It's like, I'm not surprised by anything I saw on your page today. It's all stuff I have seen before. And it is the same rote conversation that people take. And it's not even analytical. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like when people just keep repeating the same stuff,
right?
You're like, you're not even like, are you aware that your consciousness isn't even in a place that's like, you're not even thinking for yourself at this point in time. So, I don't feel like, I feel like it's a waste of energy to talk to those people. And honestly and truly, like as a woman of faith, I'm like, Jesus, this is yours.
Yeah, right. Well, and you know what? I love what you said when you spoke to us earlier today of just do your own research and understanding and investigative work. Stop relying on other people's interpretation.
Yeah.
And, I even give that example when I am, again, speaking in churches and speaking to women and, and talking to them about how books that, goodness, I would love to be an author one day. And yet that being said, books that teach you about the Bible or teach you about faith or all those things, those are great tools. Heavens, Priscilla Shirer and Beth Moore and all, I have learned so much from reading their things, and yet it is their interpretation.
Yeah. And like, I always want to be like, Jesus wasn't white, right? Like, are you're in for a huge surprise.
Yes. Well, and but I always say like their interpretation's wonderful and it does help guide you and we need those tools. And yet there is nothing like going directly
100%.
to the source, directly
You're,
to the Bible, and
yep.
me reading through, the book of Mark and letting the Holy Spirit speak to me what is meant to be
For
mine.
you. Yep.
What is meant
Yep.
for me
Yep.
versus what was meant for her. And she's teaching me again, great things. Those are, I wouldn't be where I am without those. Yes. And yet I also wouldn't be where I was if I didn't let the Bible speak to me directly.
Let it marinate.
I feel like this is that same sort of dynamic where it's like, yes, great. Learn from what other people have to say, which is what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Yet in that same breath, go pick up the book White Fragility.
Mm-hmm.
Go pick up the book Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? Go watch 13th, which, by the way, we're going to come back to that. Mind blowing. Watched that last night in my bed with my phone, just like could not take my eyes off of it. Go do those things and just, I dare you not to be moved by messages that God wants to speak directly to you from you watching it, not someone else, not even me sitting here and telling you about it or interpreting it for you.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to me because I would love to, honestly and truly, because I'm one of these, I'm like, I need to understand this.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really understand what's in it for people to say that there is no systemic racism. Like, I just don't understand. It's kind of like someone saying, you know what, I like strawberry ice cream. And someone else goes, you know what, I like black cherry ice cream. And you're like, do you though? I don't. Do you? I don't believe in black cherry ice cream. And it's like, what? Why would that be offensive to you?
Yeah.
Like, what? You're not even in it. So, you're not even in it. You got like no pony in the race.
Yes.
And B, what's it to you? Like, what do you have to lose? I really am interested. Like, what do you have to lose by this actually being true? Right. And that's really the incredible depth, I think, of racism in many respects. It's like there's no logic to it. And when people go, oh, how do you know it's racism? And I'm like, well, I'm open. What else is it? Like, I'm open. What is it? Ignorance? Okay. Yes. Ignorance, racism, same, right? Is it a lack of intellect? Yes. Ignorance, racism, I just honestly and truly, that's what happens in my head. I'm like, I'm sorry. I know Jesus loves you. I do. I do. I just clearly the message, like when the student is ready, right? The teacher will appear. And you just hope everybody's on their own path. Everybody's on their own path. Everybody's on their own journey. It doesn't make it not true. Like that's the thing that you have to keep telling yourself, which is like, like when people say things like, well, it's not a thing. And then the other favorite thing I hear is like, well, I got these few Black people on the internet that also say that it is not true.
Yes.
So I got that going for me. Not that I have any Black friends in my circle at all, or I've talked to anyone in person about this, but these people on the internet have said it's not true. And I'm like, okay, so here's the thing. I've never seen a blowfish. I've never eaten a blowfish. I don't not exist. It doesn't not exist because I haven't seen it or tasted it. So it's such a baseless argument. I just don't think it exists. Okay, good for you. Great. Yeah. That doesn't make it not true,
I do, because that whole idea that systemic racism does not exist, it does get my blood boiling. I mean, I come undone. Like once you come through the screen of my computer, and there's not a lot of things that get me that riled up. My children can get me that riled up, but there's just not a lot that just makes me want to just be like,
yeah.
And those sort of comments do. And I can't remember if it was when we were on here the other night, and Deidre and Nathan, who I know are listening right now, and they were such a blessing to us to share their perspective the other night, and their sister Jennifer. I don't know if it was them or I was watching an interview with Dr. Anita Phillips. I don't remember, but someone had said, we just need you to believe us.
Yeah.
We need you to not say basically what you said before of well, I don't, just that literally just take me at my word.
Yeah.
And I think this is what's so frustrating for me is that, we so easily, for the most part, latched on and got on board with the Me Too movement. We were all for, oh, I believe her. I wasn't there. I wasn't there to see if he made advances on her that were unwanted and undesired. I wasn't there to see if she was somehow, giving kind of, implicit, whatever innuendos and, drawing them in. And she was technically like, the bad guy. I wasn't there. And yet I instinctively looked at the women and said, I believe you.
Yeah.
I believe you. I am taking you at your word.
Yeah.
Without a video camera being present, without a third party being able to validate what happened behind closed doors, I believe you. And it's so frustrating to me then when we're in this situation and there still are people that I hear saying, well, but I don't have all the facts. Well, but we don't have all the details. Well, but
As if they matter. As if it matters.
The kind of character that George Floyd was,
Yeah.
or, fill in the blank. I mean, it's gone on for over 150 years. I mean, slavery didn't even end that long ago.
Yeah.
And so that for me, I think is so frustrating.
Yeah. No,
we can latch onto those, but for some reason we can't just say, I believe you. I'm taking you at your word. I know there was no one else present. There wasn't video footage recording everything. And yet I believe what is coming out of your mouth at face value because you are a human being that is worth being listened to.
Yeah. It's called empathy. Just, it's like, it is a emotional IQ sort of thing. Some people do not, just some people don't have it. I listened to a friend just a couple of days talk about how the woman of color talking about how she and her son were at a baseball game and her husband is a coach at this baseball game. And the game got super heated. And she said, well, her son was on first base, that the first base child called her son the N-word.
No.
And she said, no one, but like the answer was, well, we didn't hear it. And right. And she was heartbroken and she was upset. And she went on to talk about, and she shared it on social media. There's been over 6,000 people who have seen her talk about this. And I know her personally, like I know her. And I'm like, girl, what is the minimum amount of empathy we are willing to give people? That's really what we have to decide as a society. What we have to decide as a social family is what is the minimum amount of kindness, respect, and empathy are we willing to accept in our society? So racism is a part of it, but when someone says there is no racism or that's not a subject that I care to learn about, or that's not a subject that I want to be a part of, really what they're communicating is, I don't care to evolve. I don't care to better myself. I don't care to better myself. And I can't even, like that, there's a bit of that is psychologically not okay. And honestly, I don't think the argument is going to be one to turn everybody into a non-racist person. What needs to happen is all the good people, all the people that are standing around watching it happen, all those people who have the capacity to be empathetic, really accept the challenge.
Yeah.
And as I called it, the equipping, really let yourself become equipped to be a voice, because I do not believe that most people are anything. But what happens is the weeds in the garden overgrow and nobody's willing to pull them out. And so
I love that analogy that you did.
Yeah, may not be able to pull, we may not be able to stop the weeds from growing, but each and every one of us should want to uproot those weeds,
Yeah.
uproot them. And so you're going to have those people that are the weeds. I think this is going to be one by people saying, no weeds in the garden, and we're going to pluck it out. We're going to pluck it out.
Well, and I love what you said this morning of just, there is just a basic, especially, my target audience on here is women. And, and then below that, right, most of them are moms like myself and you. And so I love what you said earlier of just, we implicitly know if someone comes home and your child has witnessed a bullying situation, we're even eliminating race from that, just
right.
Bullying situation, period. The conversation that you would have with them. And so then you add race back into it. And there are so many conversations within that. And I totally just lost what I was going to say with that. Tell me what you just said at the end. This is hello.
The weeds. We were talking about the weeds, plucking the weeds. Yes.
Yes. Well, and of just how, within plucking the weeds of, again, when we were talking about this the other night, we talked about, Jennifer had said one of the best ways that you can support us, right? Because I want to get to that, because that is a common question. So what do we do? And, she said, and it really struck me is, be our friend. Just don't come along for the ride. And then when we look over our shoulder, you're gone tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's blown over. The news media has died down. And that really was convicting to me of, I still want to be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
I still want to be a voice tomorrow. And to be standing up for people in the Black community, to be standing up for my friend, you're a friend of mine. And so when I read those comments, it was like a dagger to me.
I know. You're so cute. You're like, hold my purse. Hold my purse.
But here's the thing that
But that's what's required.
Yeah.
I want to make it very clear to everyone. That is what's required. What is required are the white folks getting together and correcting the behavior of the other white folks. That is what's going to make this work. Yeah. Because as I said, and as my friend said, we have been trying to get this message across in each and every possible way, right? It's not working for the Black folks to talk to the white folks. What needs to happen now is the white folks need to go, yeah, like you did. I got this. So did you,
right.
And I think that is, that's okay. It's okay. I think it's okay on a lot of levels. One, because it continues to create empathy. Most of us people of color have, girl, that was nothing. Like yeah. We are in so many cases, we're just dull to it. It's like, please, really? Like, that's the best you can do because that's new. It's like, seriously. And so I think it's good for you to feel that way. I think you'll find over time that there's some patterns and that there are just some people that right now can't be reached. And they honestly and truly, like, those people need nurturing and loving because they're hurt. There's something going on with them. We'll circle back around and pick them back up once we figure this all out,
Yeah.
But it's because you have a kind heart, and kind-hearted people can't stand for injustice.
Well, and I think listen, I am not all that all the time everywhere, but I will say this one has gotten me riled up. And it is hard, I will say I am so proud of the stand that our church has taken. So proud of how they are addressing it head on, how they are saying, we believe that racism exists, duh. And this is what we're committed to learning and figuring it out. And we don't have all the answers, but by golly, we are going to work towards figuring out what our game plan is and how to actually take action. And one of the things that was so, I haven't been able to let go is, how Ben, one of the pastors at our church, how he defined repentance. And I want to get it right, so I wrote it down. And he said it's rethinking the way that you think about everything. And, you know, for me, standing out and fighting on your behalf, on behalf of men and women and children who are in the Black community, and not just letting comments like that just kind of fade away. And I'm not trying to target anyone. It's not just comments, it's posts that people make. It's passive comments that they make in passing that once before you might have been like, ha, 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 awkward laughter, you know, and just address it head on. And I now see those, and it's painful for me to actually relive and recount. Like when I genuinely think about opportunities that I have had in my years of life, I am remorseful about how I sat back and did nothing. And I do feel like we cannot say I'm sorry enough. You know, you guys have been fighting this battle for decades. And I know I'm not alone in this, but didn't see and feel the gravity of it. I know I was among the ones that said, well, I don't have the full story. Does that really exist? I am not a racist, and so therefore it can't be. Because everyone I know in my circle would feel the same as I do. And again, not to make it about me, but I am hoping other people can resonate with this. There is a restlessness in my soul that I cannot let go. And I don't want it to go. I do want to cling on to that of that urging that I know is of God. You know, that is of him stirring something in me and saying, don't miss this. I am in this. I am at work in this. Come join me at work in this. And I have too many times in my life gone, oh, that feels hard. Oh, I'm not the woman for that job. You know, oh, anyone else could do that better. Oh, I don't know enough. I mean, I did it with speaking for years, you know, and when you finally step out into the uncomfortable, into the deep water, and all of a sudden you go, oh, there's a whole world I was missing. And this is no different. You know, this is just no different of, again, we talked about this the other night. We have to be willing to step into the uncomfortable. If we are still sitting in the comfortable spot, then that's never where God's at work. God is always in the deep waters, in the uncomfortable, because that's when we have to rely on him. And so if we're still back on the shore, he's like, okay, well, meet you back there one day. You know, like, I'm heading this way. So I hope people listening we can rally around that. But that is our cry. Like, God, push us into the uncomfortable. And that's where we're going to see transformation happen every time.
100%. And that is the basics of growth happen in the discomfort zone. And there's lies there, there's deception there, literally, it is designed to get you to turn back around and stay small. We have to grow up as a country. We have to grow up as a country. You know, the whole world. Like, that's the part, Kim, that really, when we talk about people that don't get it, I'm like, it's okay. I mean, like, it's not okay that you don't get it, but I can't worry about you not getting it. The entire world is pointing at us, and this is black and white, no pun intended. This is cut and dry. Like, it's like, whoop, there's no, okay. Like, so it is just one of those, it's hard to confront evil. It is. It takes a bold character. It takes righteousness. It takes power that we don't individually own. You know, like today, I didn't want to do this. Like, I was serious. I was like, girl, a million times. I was like, I could call her and tell her I have to work. Which I did.
I would have just declined.
I got a meeting. I can't get this thing to post. And, you know, it's like, and there was something inside me that God was like, step into the fire. I'm here. I'm here. It's okay. We are good. And I don't have any idea what the plan is. We don't need to know what the plan is. We just simply need to follow at the prompting. Like, it's about the prompting and getting an action in the prompting. So, you know, we're all on the right path. Like, to me, like, and I meant it when I said, like, I would love for this not to be the case. Like every day I look at my social media, I'm like, I want to post about ponies and rainbows and my lipstick and my need for a haircut and all
hummingbirds trying to attack me in the face, like all those things. Yeah.
I want to get back to that, but as long as people are suffering, as long as people need help, it feels so completely and utterly silly. It does. And we'll get back there, but the new normal is racism is not okay. And the new normal is people aren't going to stand for it anymore. And I really believe we are going to fix this. I really believe that there is a spiritual awakening happening. I really believe that people are stepping into their calling, whether they know it or not. And I do believe that all over the place, God is equipping people in their own unique ways based on their own gifts and their own unique gifting for where they are right now.
Absolutely.
And it's happening.
You have to tell. Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah, amen to that. I mean, you know, one of my huge passions is, you know, my main audience is women, but men as well, of course, is stepping into what God has uniquely called them to go do.
Yep.
What an uprising it would be to not just knock out racism, but so many problems.
100%. I got a list. I'm like, up next.
If we literally just were like, okay, I'm going to step into the uncomfortable for my unique gifting, for what literally God has, what spiritual gifts he has uniquely and specifically given to me based on my own story and my own past and present and marriage and children and family dynamics and all those things. And I am going to go step out and use my calling. I'm going to say yes to it. I mean, that is to me where I'm just like mind blown on how many fires we could start and put out. You know, I mean, just, oh my goodness. I just, I'd said this last time and I can't help but keep thinking how, you know, that is what heaven's going to look like.
Yeah.
That is what it's going to look like, is all of us up there uniquely being us and praising God in our unique ways that we do. What a gift it would be to witness that here on earth.
Yeah.
You know, have to wait for heaven to see that. And I do believe that this could be that rising where we could just get a taste of it. You know, we're never going to fully experience it, but man, what a sweet taste that would be.
Yeah. And I think we're seeing little snippets of it. And I think when it feels too heavy, when it feels like, oh my gosh, I just can't another moment, I do really look for those things. I look for that evidence. I pray for evidence. Like, God, show me where you are in all of this. And there are so many great stories. There are so many good people. There really is a wave of people doing things now that they would have never done before. And it's all about God's timing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I trust it.
Yeah.
Most of the time. I'm not going to lie.
I know. And then there's times where you're like, can you speed it up? Like, I've got a timeline here.
Jesus, take the wheel and press on the accelerator, for heaven's sake.
Yeah. We've been sitting in neutral long enough. Like, it's time to take the expressway. I know this is a common question, and I know you spent a lot of time addressing it, but I don't know that it can be spoken about enough. And again, you did it so eloquently. When people say, okay, I'm in, Genevieve, I'm in. Like, you don't have to talk me into anything. I believe you. I believe that this is a a worldwide problem. So, but what do I do?
Yeah.
You did such a great job, and I do feel like that is the question I keep getting messaged to me.
Yeah.
Kim, I'm in. What do I do?
Yeah. I think you declare that you're in. Like you declare it boldly and proudly. I think too many people are being quiet about it. And people make up stories when you're quiet about it. And unfortunately, they make up the wrong stories. I think this is one of those things that you have to just definitively say, I am not okay with racism. Like we need a world without racism. And I think it's particularly important to use that word because that's what it is, right? You can't fix something you can't name. You can't fix something that you can't see. You can't fix something that you cannot describe. And I'm not saying to focus on it. I am, because the focus needs to be on the work to undo all of the things. But we need to name it and say, this is what we're working on. This is the issue of the day. And then I think being vocal, and I'm not saying like, oh, pick a fight with, with everybody on social media or what have you.
Yeah.
But pay attention. Like, it's interesting to look and see what people post about and what they don't post about. And I think it's okay. You don't have to do it every day, all day, whatever. It's like, but make sure that people know where you stand on the issue. And then do the good work of, like, if you're going to be on social media and you see somebody post something, post back. And I'm not saying fight. I'm not saying, debate them, because I don't think that gets anywhere. But I think strongly just simply saying, this comment right here is what we're talking about. This right here is what we're not okay with.
Yeah. So, and I don't agree with this. I totally disagree with what you are saying.
Yeah. And we'll agree to disagree, that doesn't actually apply here. There's no, we agree to disagree. We don't agree to disagree. I just categorically disagree, and it's not okay. So, and then all the things that we talked about, And if you're gifted with money, then look for ways to contribute to Black lives, Black communities, Black education. If you are gifted in other ways, use your gifting to help raise up the community, raise up the Black community,
Yeah, I love Jennifer said on here, it's a sweet friend of mine. She said, let's make a pack, white folk. Let's hold ourselves accountable and check each other. And there is, right? I mean, there is strength in numbers of being able, and this is something I was talking to a sweet friend who had texted me this week, and I called her, and because I could tell her heart was so heavy. She was like, a good friend of mine and I just fundamentally disagree on this. And it's really, really hard to have conversations with her about it, because there is no, like, she's going to sway me into believing what she believes, and I said to her, it is one of those times where, unfortunately, you do have to pick the people that are passionate about it with you, that hold to the same beliefs. And it doesn't mean that, again, you create this bubble, because we do still need to be speaking loud enough about it that it is still penetrating ears that are deaf for now. But I still believe seeds are being planted. The grace of God, He's going to work all things for His good. And, hopefully on this side of heaven, they realize that. And so I do think that there is a sense of, engage with the people who are going to continue to speak truth with you, and don't disengage from the others. But I'm just saying, let them have to say bounce off of you.
Yeah.
And then, in this area, pick up the phone and call me. I will happily talk about this all day long, any day. Because I do think that there is, again, what Jennifer was saying, if there has got to be unity in this.
Yeah.
Within the Black community, together within the Black and white community, and within the white community, to be able to say, hey, because it's only going to get harder. It's not like suddenly just a, breakthrough is going to happen tomorrow and we're like, all singing kumbaya in a circle with a bonfire doing s'mores. So, yeah, I mean, I do think that is important.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to, you become what you hang out with. You become, and that's another reason that we need to be talking about it, is so that you can influence the energy of the conversation with positivity in this direction, right? And I'm not talking about just flaky positivity, but like if you are the person in the middle of all the people that don't believe it, it's very hard. It's very trying. It's very tiring. And I think that's part of why people have such a hard time coming to grips with it, because I think that they instinctively know that means changes in a lot of ways. Besides, like it really is a bit of an awakening. And it's like, so now that I'm clued in,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm around all these people who aren't, now what do I do? You have to make some very serious decisions that you may not want to, or you may need to mourn those decisions or those relationship losses. And there's a lot of work to be done besides just going, I'm all in, because you can't be pardoned yet. Right. You can't be pardoned,
Well, and there's just even with that, I mean, kind of what we were talking about of just embracing your calling and you saying kind of do what you can do, right? So even though you and I are having this conversation, I know other people are like, there is no way that I'm going live, and like that would be so uncomfortable and so awkward, and but again, like, this is my passion. This is what I feel called to do. It is going to look very different, or maybe it is the same. Maybe you are sitting there and you're like, well, I can do what she's doing. We need your voice. Go do it. But it also maybe, hey, that's not my area of calling, but I do love writing. So I'm going to talk about it. Or, I don't even know. Or I am someone who loves, I'm the social planner. Great. Maybe you are the person that even rallies together 5 people. It doesn't need to be hundreds of people to go have a peaceful protest. Or, people have been doing it in our little downtown community, and sometimes there's 5 people there, and my soars every time. I'm like, drive my honking, like, yeah, I'll join you later today, And so yeah, but it is kind of finding that coupling of what is your gifting, what has God uniquely gifted you with, and your heart being compelled and passionate in this is no mistake. And he has woven you together in such a way that he has created both of those things to go hand in hand. Those things that break our hearts, he has already equipped us to go and stand up and be a voice for the oppressed, And so I think that's just such a beautiful thing is, I think, what can I do? The first step is, yes, understanding and reading and talking and all those things. But it's also, I think, wrestling out with God of, if you don't know what that calling is, of asking.
Yes.
God, tell me. Yes. How do you uniquely gift me in a way that is different than her and her and her? And uncovering that. Because here's the thing is that discovering that, man, that is going to change your life beyond just racism. I mean, if you can figure out what that is, then you can use that to bring God's goodness to every issue that's going to keep arising from now until your last breath.
Yes.
Right? And so, that's just where God's at work, is he's like, I've gifted you in a way that is unique to you. And he's not trying to keep that a secret. Why would he want to withhold that information? Why? He's not waiting until we get to heaven and he's like, well, I was going to tell you, but I gave you all these clues. It was a little treasure hunt and you just never uncovered. No, it's like, well, you never asked. You never tried to figure it out. You never wrestled it out with me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think I can't emphasize that enough when I keep hearing that question. It's just, man, if you don't know what that gifting is, you got to go to God and figure it out, because he has a specific purpose for you in this. And we need the entire body of Christ for this thing to work.
100%. And you know, I think that you're spot on. And it really goes back to, don't ask me, ask God. What should you be doing? Ask God, because he sees it all. Ask him, because he's got a plan.
Yeah.
Ask him 100%. But say something while you're asking.
Can I ask you, I know there's so many resources, and Adrian and I are still working on, you know me, I want to get everything on it. And I know I can. I know it can't be an exhaustive list, but do you have any resources that have been just fundamental and instrumental for you in your walk, that maybe, you know, just a couple little nuggets? Because what I do keep hearing, and it's not just within this community, I keep hearing it, you know, following people in the Black community, people in the white community, and I keep hearing the word, I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed with guilt for what I haven't done. I'm overwhelmed with what to say. I don't want to mess it up because we've been messing it up for so long. I don't want to mess it up again and say the wrong thing. And I've been offensive, and I don't want to inadvertently, you know, and so I keep hearing these things, right? And we talked about this last time. And so then just no one does anything.
Right.
And so and again, even though we are saying, like, yes, go to God, wrestle it out, figure it out. That being said, are there certain tools that you have found helpful that maybe you could throw a couple out that way that they could latch onto, if it makes sense?
So yeah, so my short answer is no.
I knew you were going to say that.
My long answer is learning takes place by doing. Learning takes place by doing. We teach our kids how to ride a bike by putting them on a bike, by letting them fall, skin a knee, and telling them you're going to be okay, get back on that bike. And I think while it is important to educate yourself, learning takes place by doing. So you have to be willing to get messy. You have to be willing to be bad long enough to get good. Because you've got, like, that's just part of the process. Is, like I said, something so incredibly stupid. And it's like, good for you, because it's part of the learning, right? Like, we didn't call our kids into a room and show them a PowerPoint presentation about riding a bike. We didn't buy them books on riding a bike. And it's okay to make the mistakes. Like, I just want people to know, like, it's okay to make the mistake. Just own it. It's part of the learning process. It's okay to say, I'm still learning. Here's what I want to say. Here's what I want to say. And I've talked to people before, and they've said things in front of me, and I mean, you mean this, right? So you said this. I'm just going to help you out here. Say this instead. Yes. Okay. So that is what you meant, right? Yes, that's what I meant. Great. Because that it communicates it better. But you have to put yourself in closer proximity to Black people. Like, the only way you're going to learn, like, so to me, the advantage of following Black people is to understand that, like, I'm putting myself in this situation. I'm connecting with people so that I can learn how to communicate, what's important to people, how to be a good friend, how to understand this at a big level. And so I would say, yeah, find some, you know, and I don't mean like, oh, just, hey, here's a Black friend. I mean, like, you know, really evaluate, like, where do we, and many people don't live in a place where they have, you know, Black folks in their town or community. So social media is a great place.
Yeah.
Find people who resonate with you. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, oh, follow this person because everybody's saying follow this person. It's like, you should follow someone authentically because they offer something that you want, right? Yeah. And so you just do the work. You're like, you know, like this person, don't love them. Gonna follow someone else. Like,
right.
So it's all trial and error as far as I'm concerned. And it's not a long process. Sitting and waiting and watching is a longer process than getting in, making mistakes, like fail big, fail often, and you are going to be on the other side of this before you know it. And then you're going to be more comfortable having the conversations.
I love that. You get, again, you sent us right back into the get uncomfortable and figure it out as you go, right? It's on the job training. Like
It
figure
is.
it out as you go along. The image that comes to mind is I've really never been to a protest before. I mean, I was trying to think when we went this Saturday, I was like, have we ever done anything like this? Like, I really, if we did, it was something very insignificant. And so, I'm in the car, and again, what do we write? I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to inadvertently say
Right.
something actually that's hurtful instead of like, no,
Right.
this was meant to encourage. I don't
Yeah.
know what I do. And we showed up, and I could tell Ben was uncomfortable. He's just, clenching the steering wheel the whole time, just, what are we driving into? And we showed up, and the first few minutes you were kind of like, oh, okay, we're clapping.
What are the rules?
This is a clapping moment. Oh,
Right.
sign. Okay, signs up. No, signs. Yep. Okay. No, now no. Yeah, boo. And again, you're kind of figuring it out. But I got to tell you, about 5 minutes in, girl.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, yes, holding the sign, punching Ben, like, yeah. And it was one of these where it's just like we both left and we're like, can you imagine if we hadn't come?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's not just, I'm not saying go to a protest and you're going to just, but for us, it was our yes for that day. It was our
Yeah.
yes for that moment to go and physically be present,
Yes.
physically say, I am standing next to you. And even though I may not physically get to come back here tomorrow, I'm not going anywhere, and for us, that was our yes. In that moment, it was incredibly uncomfortable. But now that I've done it, we left and I was like, well, I'm going to live at the Capitol building now. This is now what I
Yes.
do. I have now
No.
been an activist. I now have all clever new things to write on signs, and this is my new outpost. You can send mail. I will see the children on the weekends. Like, but had I waited
Mm-hmm.
until I literally, even down to like, what do I write on the poster board, or what is my
Mm-hmm.
etiquette? What do I wear? What
Yeah.
do you wear to a protest? Right. I mean, it sounds so trivial, but all those
Yeah.
things are roadblocks.
Yeah.
Once you step out and do it, you may, like you said, muddle it up a little bit along the way, but then you're in it and you're like, this feels good.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing something,
Yeah. It's such I think the thing that I really hope we don't miss as a human race, as the human race, is this is good for everybody, for exactly what you're talking about. Like, yes, the subject is the Black community. Yes, the subject is racism, but it's good for everybody. Everybody benefits. And this is exactly how people benefit. You grew, you become a better human being in the process. That's so good for so many reasons for you. And the thing to me, Kim, is our children are watching.
I know.
Our children are watching. Your children saw you go to a protest. Your children saw you do something that you were unsure about, and my children are watching, like I have grown children and they're watching, and I want to empower them to be the best people they can possibly be. And that's not lip service.
Yeah.
You can't tell people to be the best they possibly can be. You have to demonstrate that. And as a country, as a society, it's not just that we can do better or we need to do better. It is part of the evolutionary process. We are ready. This is our moment. It's good for everybody.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I think that, you and I could come back here and have a whole other conversation about children and, of just what those conversations look like. Because, I will own that we just haven't had those conversations until now. We just haven't. I mean, there was just, in my mind, just kind of an implied, well, Ben and I are not racist. And so therefore, we speak to them about being kind. We go to church. and hear about, and embracing everyone, and there's no judgment. And so this is just a trickle down effect. We have not been like intentional
Yeah.
about, picking up children's books that are written by Black authors,
Yes.
and and having overt conversations about, listen, this is an issue. And it was so eye-opening when we were talking about the protest. And so, our big ones were asking questions, well, what is a protest? And what they've seen the protest is in the news.
Right.
So then we got questions about, well, are you going to be safe?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard, or not even seen, I've heard, my friend told me that people are dying in the protest.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend told me that it's incredibly violent. And we're like, you know what? Here's what a protest is meant to be. And those things, like we can talk about those things, but we're going to talk about the intent behind it. Like, here is why those things are happening, and here's where our hearts are at. And P.S., did you know that this even exists? I mean, honestly, in the last week, I'm ashamed to say it's the first time that we've actually even blatantly talked about, hey, have you even heard of this thing called racism?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that this actually exists in our world, that we have dehumanized an entire population of people and made them less than. And it was eye-opening to us, of just watching their eyes, of realizing, like, man, we have done them a disservice thinking they're inclusive. And so these are mute conversations.
You have to protect your kids.
I don't know if it was you that posted this, someone else, of just inclusive conversations versus anti-racist conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Are we talking to our kids about being inclusive and
Mm-hmm.
what that actually looks like versus just, well, I'm not racist.
Right. Somebody's going to teach your kids. Someone's going to teach your kids how to feel, how to act, how to behave toward people of color. And as a community, we need to take that very seriously, because if you don't intentionally have a conversation with your children, and as people of color, we do this all the time. You're having conversations all the time.
You have no choice.
That's right. That's right. And if you really understand that as a parent, and especially as a woman of faith or a father of faith, our job is to instill values in our children. This is an important point. And you leave your kids vulnerable and susceptible to racist information by not clearly defining it for them at a very early age. So 100%, I think as moms, we need to take that very seriously. You need to have books at your home that have children in it of color. You need to talk about treating people the same, regardless of their color, regardless of where they are from. And that is the work. That is the work.
You're right.
Yeah.
And there is, I do think there is so much value in looking at the historical framework of what our nation has created and has done. And again, we're going to give some tools. You figure out what you're supposed to go do. We will try to get some tools in your hands. But I think that's why watching the 13th was so mind-blowing and powerful to me, is just watching how we as a nation have just continually passed laws and just done these things that just passively have imprisoned the Black community, have made them slaves without the term slave on it. How this is not something that ended in 1859 when slavery ended. I think I got that year right. I'm trying to remember. This is that was literally just the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. And almost done is a funny thing to, like, we're almost finished. Like we're so close, and it's like, yeah. Yeah. Like, that's like saying we almost landed the plane successfully. Is that really what, it's like, no, there are some subjects, like you said, that are like, no, we got to go for 100%.
Yeah.
Like, yes, 40 years ago, 100 years ago, that's not really all that much
No.
time.
No. Well, and again, it's one of those things of, right, we could go through the Bible from Genesis to Revelation every single day.
Yeah.
And we would still never fully uncover the mystery of the gospel.
Yeah.
Right? Until that day that we're standing before the throne. And I feel like this is one of those things that's going to, we could continue learning and wrestling and figuring it out, and we're never going to have fully understood it. And so if we're waiting to fully understand it, we're never going to have done anything.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Christina, I know we need to kind of wrap up here, but she asked, how can I effectively answer white friends who say, if you talk about racism and white privilege, then you are perpetuating the problem? Oh man, that is one of those things where I'm just like, let me at him.
You know what? That's really interesting. I think it's okay to say that logic just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. Talking about racism for the sake of trying to uncover it and solve the problem. It's kind of, honestly and truly, it's like saying, if you talk about your broken foot,
right,
you're just going to perpetuate your broken foot. It's like, well, I got to talk about my broken foot so I can put a stinking cast on it, get a doctor to look at it, diagnose it, and get it fixed.
Yeah.
So it's a misunderstanding, and it's rhetoric. Quite honestly, I'm just going to call it what it is. But I wouldn't want, listen, it's all about like the metaphors and stuff as far as I'm concerned. And it's like, listen, if you had a broken leg, you got to call it a broken leg.
Yeah.
And you got to fix it. And that's how I feel about it. And thanks for your opinion.
Oh, he said to children, if you talk about racism, oh, okay. Friends who say that you should not address it with your children because then you're just perpetuating these beliefs. I think that comes from a place of actually thinking that your children somehow are ignorant to what's happening.
Yeah, children pick up on everything. Babies pick up on energy. You know what I mean? It's like, you know how babies won't go to certain people? It's like, then they don't even have to say it. Children are smarter than you think.
Yeah.
And there are ways to do, like, for heaven's sakes, Mr. Rogers did it way back in the day. Like, it's not like you have to sit and tell them all the gory, gruesome details, but there are children's books. There are ways to have conversations about skin color. And, God created everybody equal, right? Like, same thing. It is interesting to me how few people would consider getting toys for their children of color. So
wait, say that one more time.
It's interesting to me how few people have diverse toys for their children.
Oh.
So it's like, if you go to the store and buy the white baby doll all the time, and you buy the white Barbies, and you buy you're telling, you are signaling to your child, this is you, this is your community, this is your framework, this is your lane. So a way to include it would be books, toys, friends, going to the places where
you're so right. I have, honestly, that is me. I mean, I have not even thought to get, and what, interestingly enough, when I thought to buy them is when we were fostering and we had Black children in our home.
Yeah.
Then it was like, oh, well, they need baby dolls that look like them.
Mm-hmm.
Why? It literally never even crossed my brain of like, why would my own white children not also want to and need to play with children of color, with baby dolls of color? I think so. I mean, these are things why I think it is so important that we need each other.
Yeah.
We need each other to wrestle through and figure it out. And again, because we're all part of the body of Christ. And so you chop off the arm and we're not going to see the full picture of who 100%. He is without 100%. That kind of differing perspective.
Yeah.
So, and I know Ben always says like the most, what is it? The most our country is the most segregated. Is that what it is at 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning? Is that the phrase of how we all just kind of go to our places of worship and, and it's like, well, heaven sure ain't going to be like that. I mean, we're all going to be singing praises in our own unique ways. So, I love that. I feel like I could sit on here and talk. We could have this conversation for so many more hours.
Yeah, this is a good start. It's a really good start. And I want to thank you, Kim, so much for opening up this conversation on your page, for using your page as a beacon of information, truth, and learning, and for being true to that, and just following through all day. Like, it really is. It is what is required. It is what we have to do. It is what is going to create change. And honestly and truly, it's. I'm so thankful that you had that prompting, and I'm super, super honored to have been able to visit your page today and talk to y'all. Really, thank you so much.
Thank you. I honestly thank you for sharing your heart and your truth. And this will not be the last that you see of Genevieve. I know we have much more to say. And would you mind if I prayed over you and our time together before
That would be great. Yes. Yeah.
Jesus, I just keep falling to my knees on this topic and just wrestling through. God, I know that you are trying to speak truth to us. I just ask that we would have open hearts that are ready and willing to receive it. God, we know that you are at work, that you have been at work. And I'm just asking that we just don't miss that. God, that we would just walk alongside you in this, where you are healing broken hearts. God, within the Black community, within the white community, God, just for all of us. And Jesus, that we would just meet you there and just dig into the uncomfortable, God. That we would, just as Genevieve said, God, that we would just learn by doing, that we would step out, that we wouldn't be afraid to make mistakes, that we would know that you are in the midst of that to catch us when we do, and to say, hey, let's keep going. I got more planned ahead for you. God, I also ask that just every single person that is listening, that and beyond, God, that it would have ripple effects, that that we truly would seek what you want of us in this. That every specific person, God, would just walk away confidently knowing this is my gifting. This is my unique calling. God, this is the marriage of just who you created me to be. And this issue that weighs heavy on your heart as well, God, that you are going to join those two together faithfully, showing up in that, so that we can go step out into the great, uncomfortable, and unknown, God, and use our talents to just do good, to make all things work for your good, God, to draw people towards you. We do know that it's the only way that there's going to be reconciliation and unity, God. We've seen it, reconciliation in all parts, or in so many parts of our lives, God, whether it's in our marriages or in our parenting or in family, God, in friendships. We've seen little just snippets, little just whispers of hope in our lives of that, God. And I just ask that you would just bring that to the forefront of our minds, that there is always hope and reconciliation when we look to you for being just the grounding behind what can make all things happen.
Yes.
And you're victorious, mighty, faithful. God, your absolutely precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Beautiful.
Jen, thank you for who you are, and you and I will talk.
Yes. Thank you so much, my friend. And thank you all. Seriously, thanks. I'm really just so honored to have been able to have the conversation. Thanks,
I know.
Kim.
It's a great group of people.
Yeah.
Love you all.
Bye, everybody.